One day, I'm gonna figure out how to plug in my microphone in less than an hour and a half, and you're all gonna look so stupid. This one might be kinda long and rambly, even more so than the last ones. I'm a little bit sorry about it. 3 abandoned spaceships sit rotting in the desert. Pyramid class Avio Ra destroyers, abandoned when a dead magic zone crept over Colony 147 in Project Earth. The primitive humans remaining here have forgotten their ancestors in the stars, and they count the year as 1983. A human named Michael Jackson has just begun a record-breaking run on top of the Billboard album charts with his Thriller album, and the final episode of MASH is currently playing on 105.9 million TVs across the planet, and precisely 3 TVs on the nearby planet of Mars. But this is not where our story begins. Nor does it begin on the nearby planet known as the Red Wastes, where the red dragon Rakshan rules with an iron fist. No, our story begins in the stars high above. This is where, if it were legally allowed, I would play Thriller. Not the album version, the single version. If you can pull it up to go along with this, you'll get the vibe better. 'Cause the album version starts with like the creepy monologue, but the single version just goes and that's the point. I can't do any more of it or they will rob me. Our story begins with the Lucky Star, a once restaurant on rockets converted into a smuggler ship. So, welcome. This is, I guess, me narrating my D&D campaign. Kind of just so I can keep track of it and memorialize it in some sort of way, but also because I kind of want to show people what goes into preparing it. We're running this campaign using 5th edition with some cool sci-fi rules from Magehand Press in the form of dark matter. Basically, the whole premise of the thing is it's not sci-fi that got so advanced that it looks like magic and then it turns into like a fantasy kind of thing. It's literally just fantasy, however many rules in the future, right? Like explicitly, you have to have a wizard cast a spell in order to go into faster than light. It's a really interesting setting. So the characters for this campaign are Sploink, who I'll put Sploink is an amoeboid ooze sorcerer. He's also the ship mechanic. Leo is a dolphin in an old-timey spacesuit whose planet got evaporated by the sun, and they have to live in a specific kind of water, and they're running out of it, and their planet is gone. Also, he worships the sun, which is interesting. It's weird. He's a cleric. Svendar Stonestar is the second son of the Duke of Dracaro Prime. He's a space dwarf. He wears a Hawaiian shirt and a chain. He gambled a royal fortune away, and the armies of his father and brother are hunting him down. He also owes money to everyone in the galaxy, including the Cabal, who are devils that buy souls, because he sold his soul to them to gamble for more money. Also, the only normal person in the group, Coyote. Coyote is just a human. He's just a guy. He has a cool Daft Punk helmet and a robot arm, and he's the pilot. And, okay, a faster-than-light engine blew up in his face, and now he can teleport. That's it. That was pretty quick. I could go a lot more into detail. Right. Human rogue that can teleport. Dwarf war mage, which is a mage and press class. Fish cleric, and ooze sorcerer. So the session opens on their rust bucket of a ship flying through space, and they find Svendar. Svendar's not a member of the crew. He's a stowaway. He's running from the entire galaxy. He owes money to everybody in the world. They find him in the mop closet, playing poker on his phone and losing even more money. Also, he has a really fun mechanic. He, plays poker during combat, and he can, play different card combos for different stuff. It's really interesting. Also, Mage Hand Press stuff. So, they're smuggling these Rosvalian star pigs to Orctalis 12. Rosvalian star pigs are just like normal pigs, except carnivorous and, very faintly telekinetic. The only thing they do is, grin with terribly sharp teeth, and then if there's 500 of them, which is the number there were on the ship, they can just force you towards them and then bite your hands off. They're terrible. They deliver these to some fuzzy little goblin men on Orctalis 12. They barely make it past a checkpoint. Coyote got to use his cool smuggler feature to lie to them and get through the checkpoint. They have they converted what was the fridge when this was the space version of a food truck. They converted that into the smuggler's hold. I keep getting sidetracked. There's so much to talk about. I was supposed to start making these 3 weeks ago. I have 3 sessions of stuff to get through. They deliver the star pigs. They keep one. They name him Ross. They give him aviator sunglasses. He's a cool dude. He also does try to drive the ship sometimes, which is a problem. He also does try to eat Svendar's hand. So the players collect their money, and then they take another job. They're supposed to go investigate this wreckage up in space. Most of the time, when I'm prepping a campaign, I come up with the bad guys first, and then I come up with their evil master plan, and then I kind of butterfly effect that down to see how it can provide an inciting incident for the players. The bad guys for this campaign are Inferno, which are a legion of Vect, which are the sentient androids in this setting. Everyone else has a guaranteed afterlife. The Cabal buys souls. Souls in this setting are just your afterlife. If you sell part of your soul, it just makes your afterlife a little bit worse. If you sell all of it, you go to hell. That's it. The Vect, I believe, are killing people to harvest their souls. This is pretty volcanic. Their evil plot has changed several times. I'm just going to stick it wherever feels most satisfying when the players get to that point in the campaign. So, they're sent up to go investigate this destroyed dwarven ship. They find a bunch of Inferno symbols, and they find that this is the IS Paladin, this dwarven frigate that was sent out to fight Inferno, and they also find out that they're trying to keep it under wraps that Inferno even exists. They get attacked by this terrifying 6-legged demon called Vorteract. They are all moving slower because they're in zero gravity. This thing evolved to be on wrecked spaceships and kill people. It's awful. I'll find a picture. It's terrifying. So the Vorteract attacks and just knocks Leo out in one hit. And then it has a climb speed, and they don't. Which, because they're in zero gravity, means it moves twice as fast as anyone else. It's terrifying. They barely escape. It's challenge rating 5. Which, challenge rating's a broken system, but that's too high. Anyway, it went great. They barely survived. I decided they had these things called lifelines. I swear I'm going to stop getting sidetracked. I decided they had these things called lifelines, which just attach them back to the ship. And if you're in an emergency, you can press a button. It superheats it, so it'll cut through the metal and then just yank you back to the ship. It does a ton of damage to you. It's not a good idea. But it's supposed to be a last line of defense. So one of the players runs in a circle around the Vorteract, activates his thing, cuts it all to pieces, and gets yanked back to the ship. They manage to finish it off, but 2 out of the 4 players go down. It's not pretty. That was the first session. After this, they head to Drika 5, which is one of the Maw stations. The Maws are the big portals. No one knows who built them. They're built into these enormous snake skeletons. They get to Drika 5. They go shopping for a little bit. They meet up with the Firm, who's like the space halfling mafia. They're all like super cyborgy, like they're full cybernetic. I described one of the guys as like not a robot, but having replaced every part of his body separately with cybernetic stuff. So he just looks like a ramshackle Terminator. The players get betrayed by the Firm because, of course, that was going to happen. They run for their lives. Coyote flies the ship through indoors. They almost blow up. They do a space battle. It's a whole thing. They get away. They go to Grax. Oh boy. Grax is an orc. Orcs are constantly at war with everyone. Grax is the only orc who's a normal dude. No one wanted to hire him because he's the only orc who's a normal dude. So, Grax founds his own mercenary company, which the players work for, called Grax's Guys for Cheap, which is like the budget mercenary company. And at one point, he actually says, like, well, half the guys who work for me are always on their first mission. And there's pictures of him all across the galaxy doing a thumbs up with a cap with a picture of him on it, a picture of him on his shirt. He loves himself. He thinks he's great. Anyway, he cloned himself, which works much better for orcs than it does for everyone else, and also turned himself into a hive mind. He's everywhere, and all of them know the same thing. Yeah, so the players work for him. They head to the Grax port, which is what they decided to call his little base, which is just like a space tavern. Like, they're just hanging out. They see a Cabal devil in the Grax port. The Cabal is who Svendar owes the most money to. So immediately, Coyote goes up to him and starts negotiating to sell Svendar to the Cabal. The devil accepts. They try to sneak up on Svendar. He manages to hold the whole party off for a minute, which is pretty impressive. But he kills the devil. Everything kind of settles down because they know they can't sell him anymore. And then Belphegor himself, the devil, comes out of hyperspace and just grabs Svendar and leaves. We kind of knew this was going to happen eventually. In most campaigns, the players spend the first 5 levels running for their lives from the bad guys, from whatever. And then they reach a point where they can start making their own moves. That is not what happened. I thought it would be funny if Svendar owed money to everyone in the galaxy. So I did a little bit of not great math and arrived at the conclusion that there should be a 250,000 credit bounty on him from the Cabal. Which, even that, I kind of skewed the math a little bit to make it less, because I thought the players might get this money, and I didn't want that to happen. Because in this game, if you have enough money, you can just kit your ship out, you can just hire guys, you don't have to play anymore, essentially. But I was trying to stop them from selling the devil's ship, the Cabal devil that they killed, for 4,000. So I had Belphegor show up to take the ship, but then there was no reason they wouldn't just sell Svendar. So they got 60,000 credits each. As soon as they get this money, everyone in the galaxy knows about it. There are very few secrets in this galaxy because people who are rich enough can just buy the information. So they get an email from Mr. Abraham, the CEO of Military Industrial. And also, immediately, the firm knows that they have a ton of money and knows their location. So the firm can just go kill them. They get an email from Mr. Abraham saying, hey, I've got a suite you can stay in on Paradise 1, which is like this elven resort world. You can just stay at our research facility and buy all of these like high-tech weapons, because Mr. Abraham knows that whenever spacers come into this amount of money, they're pretty eager to spend it on bigger guns and bigger ships. And that's what he makes. So he starts talking to the players immediately, trying to get them to come to his planet. They take off, headed towards a Maw station, so that they can teleport to Paradise 1. But the firm comes out of hyperspace with 4 enormous battleships and just starts ripping into them, trying to kill them so they can get in there and like scan their data pads and take all the credits off of them, because $250,000's a lot. So the players email Mr. Abraham and tell him, we can't spend our money if we don't make it there alive. And so Mr. Abraham sends battleships up to defend them. They make it through that fight. One of Mr. Abraham's ships get blown up, but the firm gets all their ships destroyed. I didn't actually run that combat with all of the big ships, even though they do have stats. We did it kind of like, we rolled death saves, essentially, for which side was winning. And things that the players did could influence up to +2 or -2 how that roll went. So they win the fight. One of the ships get blown up. They owe Mr. Abraham like 20,000 credits. But they dock on one of his big cruisers, and they void jump to Paradise 1, where they hang out and spend a shit ton of money. And that's where that session ends. In my mind, I was just trying to get rid of this 250,000 credits I had given them as fast as possible. So, a lot of the things that Mr. Abraham offered them were ridiculously priced. Sploink has a little familiar named Bourbon, who is mechanically, he's a mechanical spider. But he reflavored it as like a little slime ball, little slime guy named Bourbon. And he wanted to spend a bunch of money to give Bourbon a class and like essentially turn him into another PC. So we decided that Bourbon just wandered off and fell in a vat of acid and became a level 2 barbarian. And then Mr. Abraham charged him after to pay for all of the acid that Bourbon absorbed. Also, Bourbon is just awful. But whenever I do like voice lines for Bourbon, I don't even speak. He just like, and yeah, he's a menace. He's terrible, and he is now no longer just a little like baseball-sized blob of slime. He is a baseball-sized ball of slime on top of a like super jacked body made of pure acid, and he has 2 levels in Barbarian, which means he can never die. Coyote was pretty eager to spend his share of the money on just the fastest dogfighter in the galaxy. In his background, he did a lot of like pod racing kind of stuff. Leo spent 40,000 credits on a +3 arcane focus. And then that was kind of it. Just didn't really need to get anything else. It's kind of set. Svendar was gone, so somebody dropped 16,000 credits to buy a new PC for that player, which is O2, this like space marine clone guy who has a big rocket hammer and a jetpack. O2 has some weird secrets the party doesn't know about, because of course he does. He's a clone. The story for O2 is that his whole batch of clones got sent out into a battle that they lost terribly, and he got like stepped on by an AT-AT, essentially, just like crushed. But then they had given him regenerative properties, so he just like gooped back together. He doesn't have bones. He's just ground beef in a spacesuit, and it's disgusting. He's unkillable, and we all wish he was killable. The party doesn't know about this yet, that he's like a weird meat monster. It doesn't make him evil. It's just kind of gross. So I'm pretty sure they're going to find out next session. And that was kind of it. They also did buy one big ship to like dock the dogfighter in, and just to be their like new base of operations. Sploink still loves the Lucky Star, so the Lucky Star is they paid a bunch of money to add a hangar so they could dock the Lucky Star inside of their new bigger ship. So they're all just hanging out on Paradise One, in what what we call the military industrial complex, because this company has like a resort for spacers that have recently come into a lot of money, as they tend to do. And it's essentially like it looks a lot like Scarif in my mind. There's the one big military industrial tower, and then the rest of it's just like little straw huts and tiki bars. And that's where the second session ends. So now there's as much left in the video as there's going to be on any normal week, because we have one more session to get through. This session starts with them just hanging out on Paradise One, just being chilling out. They're just hanging out on the beach. They get invited to this like cool underground like art collective fashion show after a couple montages of them just hanging out on the beach. Also, another thing Sploink paid for was a lifetime subscription to the Grenade of the Day service, which is just every session I give him a level 3 spell that he can cast. That's probably overpowered. It's fine. The whole game's overpowered at this point. I had a lot of fun working through the design challenge of like, I can't really rely on normal combat in the same way anymore. Like, like I said, most of the time players just run away for the first 6 sessions. We're ahead of schedule. They're not on the back foot anymore. I don't really have anything I can make them run from. Stay tuned. Never mind. I do. I totally do. So on the way to this, like, cool underground art collective thing, which is, like, literally underground. Like, they ride this elevator down into it. Mr. Abraham is like, well, we should probably get going. Like, it looks like there's a storm brewing. And he also just, like, offhandedly mentions that the weather on this planet is completely climate controlled, and anytime there is a storm, it means that one of the High Lords is just in a bad mood and is like paying for a like rainstorm to ruin other people's days, which sounded like just flavor text, but it becomes important. They head down underground into this thing. One of them rolls a nat 1 on a perception check, to like not get lost in the crowd, and actually finds themselves backstage, which is where they are when the panic starts. Initially, they just think like, oh, it's like backstage, like something. There's like a wardrobe malfunction or something, and someone tells them to help evacuate the like all of the like politicians, all of the like people in booths that are here at this event, and also tells them to kill any robots they see, which is a lot. This is a sci-fi game. The place is full of them. These two big Vect with the Inferno symbol on their chest, like, storm in there. There's a big fight. It was 2 challenge rating 3s, and they kind of cleaned up. Like, I don't know. I don't think I dealt very much damage to anyone. Balancing encounters is weird. 1 challenge rating 5 absolutely stomped them, the Vorteract. Although I guess it was in space. He had home field advantage. So they fight these robots, they evacuate everyone, they sneak around. O2 does get shot and knocked out at some point, the clone trooper that they bought. And they have to like drag him through to the elevator. They ride it up to the top, they walk out of this little straw hut, and the sky, it's not a storm. The sky is just filled with ships. Like, they're locked on this planet. They can't get out of here. The whole place is just barricaded. One of them made an insight check, like to try and figure out what the robots were doing here, and it looks like they were just going for kill count. Like they weren't like taking. They would chase after people, right? Like they're just here as an attrition thing. So there's laser fire raining down. There's robots just like slaughtering these random uh, like resort going elf politicians. And they start making their way across the islands. There was a cool little mini game. They used their jetpacks. They like hopped from place to place. They had to make a couple stealth checks. They climbed underneath one of the bridges at one point, and they make it to the tower. They're just running to their ship. On the way up, they see this vat that has been broken open. And classic spooky sci-fi stuff. There are several floors that just have weird, morally questionable experiments going on. Because again, this is a company called Military Industrial who made O2, ground beef in a spacesuit. Like these people, they make weird stuff. So they see a vat that's burst open. Probably not a big deal. They just run by it. They get to their ship, and their ship's starting to take off. They roll super high. They manage to jump into it before their ship is gone. I wasn't going to take it away. They keep accusing me of trying to, like, take their stuff away that they bought with their 250,000 credits. Or, like, saying that I would. And I don't think I'm allowed to. Like, even if it's fully, like, I could have just blown their ship up if I wanted to. I'm the dungeon master. But it feels so disingenuous to take it at this point that I'm actually thinking about how I can honor that more and how I can, like, turn the campaign in a new direction to kind of represent. It's no longer about we're just spacers with no money trying to make it from day to day. It's now about we've come into a huge sum of money, but we're still level 3. Like they're level 4 now. They started at level 3. But like they can't defend all of the stuff they have. The ships that they're capable of taking in space combat, if they get boarded, if it comes to hand combat, they're screwed. And so it's this like interesting thing now where they have to rely on this money because they're playing with the big kids now. So their ship is taking off. They roll super high. They manage to jump into the ship. I wasn't gonna let it fly away without them. Like they spent a ton of money on the ship. I'm gonna let them keep it. But it was cool that they rolled high because they got to think I might take it away. They run to the cockpit. They see there's a scientist in there just trying to get away. They threaten him. The scientist has a weird reaction to O2, which is their first clue. He's like, why are you keeping this thing around here? They try to fly up through the barricade. They cast a bunch of spells on the ship. It was a poorly thought out plan. The barricade is in like mid atmosphere, so they fly up. It gets 100 attacks on them. And they committed pretty hard. I calculated on average it would have done 156 ship damage, which is 100 times bigger. Because they got 100 attacks, and with all of the shield spells they cast on their own ship, the odds at hit were really low. And so they fly up. Last second they changed their mind, because their ship has 130 hit points, and it was going to do 156 damage on average. They saw me pull out my 10 d10s, my 10 d20s, which each represented 10 attacks, which were each going to do 3d6 damage, and then they were like, no, we're not doing this. So they turn around, but they had already committed pretty hard, so I got to roll a couple d20s, and they took a good amount of damage. But then they just dock in the tower. They're trying to figure out how to get out of here. Oh, Coyote wasn't here for this session. Coyote's still chilling on the beach, and the next game's tomorrow. He's going to start off just chilling on the beach. He's going to go through the invasion by himself and try to figure out how to get to the tower. And he's pretty good at these tactical situations. I'm kind of relying on him to figure out a way to get past the barricade. I don't know how they're going to get past the barricade, by the way. I do not deal in solutions. I deal in problems. My job is to make this difficult. So they're hanging out in the tower for a while. They fight. Alien came out in 1979. Earth is canon. Like the opening monologue that I gave to the players and that I did on this video says that Earth exists, but it's cut off from everything else because it's not in the magic field. And the ships rely on magic, so no one can get to Earth. But they did set up a relay right outside of the dead magic zone so that they can broadcast the music everywhere else in the galaxy. Because it's 1983 on Earth. The music's banger. The music's great, which means that I get to play 80s music during fight scenes, and it's space, and it's sci-fi, and it's bright colors, and it's so much fun. Anyway, Alien came out in 79, 4 years in the past, which means the scientists here could have seen Alien. So they fought an actual xenomorph, which was... This is actually kind of underwhelming. They tried to run away and get in an elevator, and I said the elevator was going to close on initiative count 0. And then, I don't know what they thought was going to happen. The xenomorph just came in the elevator with them, and then it started to close, and O2 like stuck his rocket hammer in the elevator door, and it snapped, and they all managed to get out. But so did the xenomorph. They had to fight it. They barely survived. It was rough. And I believe that's where that session ended. Oh man, is this video like 40 minutes long at this point? I've been talking for a long time. I just wanted to try to get caught up. I've been wanting to do these for a while, but I've been busy every weekend. And I got sick, and like people can't. There's a lot. I'm gonna try to do these every week. I'm gonna try to keep people caught up. My next game is in 16 hours. My next game's in 16 hours. I'm not ready. I have to prep some stuff. I do a lot less prep than most DMs, I think. Anyway, I just wanted to get caught up to where we are now. Where we are now is Inferno is invading this planet, and they've just spent a bunch of money on new toys, but not enough new toys to deal with this situation. My plan for next session, and I'm probably going to talk about this in the next video, so I don't know why I'm going over it now. If you're still watching, you're a crazy person. My plan for next session, the players didn't really have long enough in this galaxy to really feel their characters out and to really start caring about the world. Like, now they're just powerful, but they don't have any attachments. They don't have any bonds. They don't have anything to use that power for. So I'm thinking next session is going to be a bunch of flashbacks so I can get them to be like, oh, there are things in this galaxy that are worth fighting for, right? One of those things is Rax. Rax is one of Coyote's friends, a fellow racer from back on his home planet. And I think Rax is going to be a rebellion pilot fighting against the hegemony of man. So Coyote's player was asking about like what missions there were, and I was like, oh, the rebellion, like fighting against the hegemony of man, is offering like a couple thousand for you to like reinforce a barricade for a couple days. And then he asked how much the hegemony was paying, which are like the empire they're fighting against. And I was like, well, obviously they're paying a little bit more, right? So he said that he was going to side with them, which feels bad, because that's where he grew up, is inside the hegemony. He should know how terrible the conditions are. It feels like he should want, at least not actively work against the rebellion's cause, even if he's not going to die for it. So next session, he's going to have flashbacks. He's going to hang out with Rax. I've got to try to make this NPC super likable, and then he's going to become a rebellion pilot. And, they're free to make their decisions in the present. If that is enough to dissuade them from fighting against the rebellion, then I've done my job, and I've gotten Coyote more into his character. If they decide that they're going to fight against the rebellion, then I can just say that one of their pilots like kills Rax in the fighting, and then they're gonna feel real bad about it, and then they actually care about stuff. That's the plan. Thanks for watching, I guess. If you're still here, man, I don't know what you're doing. It's been like 40 minutes of just mad ramblings. Check in next week, see if we're dead. Bye.